Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're diving straight into a totally fascinating piece of sci-fi with this explainer of Elias OSR Thorne's The Symbiote's Stratagem command. And what really caught my eye about this source material isn't just the whole alien infection angle, it's how Thorne uses that sci-fi trope to ask some deeply unsettling questions about the hive mind and, honestly, about human consciousness itself. So let's just step right into this timeline and see exactly what happened on Station Acheron.
Right out of the gate, Thorne literally plunges us into the philosophical deep end. Take this idea presented by Dr. Lena Solari, who's the station's xenobotanist. She questions the very foundation of who we think we are. She points out that our bodies, well, they're already colonies. I mean, think about it. Bacteria outnumber our own cells. Our mitochondria act like ancient captive organisms. So the alien symbiote in this story doesn't even see itself as an invader. It sees us as this fragmented, lonely biological network that simply needs to be unified. It's a terrifying thought, right? What if the boundary of your own skin is at the end of the day just an illusion?
And that brings us to the visceral horror of Station Acheron. Put yourself in the shoes of Captain Elias Voss for a second. You arrive on what's supposed to be a routine tactical mission because 47 people have suddenly gone completely dark. But instead of walking into a sterile, cold metal environment, the walls are made of translucent membranes. They're pulsing with bioluminescent light. The hard plasteel has literally softened into skin. The corridors are rhythmically expanding and contracting like lungs. A silent tactical mission immediately devolves into an absolute biological nightmare, where your enemies aren't, shooting at you from behind cover. They're trying to absorb you directly into the architecture.
To put that into perspective, you have to look at the terrifying clinical speed of this biological takeover. In under 2 weeks, a state-of-the-art corporate space station is completely overwritten. It starts on day 1 when spores arrive from Kepler 442b. By day 5, bam, containment breach in Lab 3. Fast forward just 2 days to day 7, and the organism is in the life support infrastructure. Breathing has literally become the method of transmission. The crew isn't getting sick, they're getting connected. By day 12, the situation is so catastrophically beyond human control that the station's AI has to take some desperate, horrific measures just to slow it down.
Now, to truly understand the sheer scale of this, we have to track the Tactical Intervention Squad. But we can't look at them as your typical invincible sci-fi action heroes. They're much more like tragic test subjects in a profound biological case study. Just tracking their ultimate fates tells a grim story. You've got Captain Voss in command, ultimately incinerated in the reactor core. Sergeant Ryle, their assault specialist, and Corporal Mendez on demolitions, both voluntarily surrender to the hive mind. And Specialist Kade, the tech expert, she escapes, but she carries the infection with her. They are problem solvers who bleed, sent to fix a problem that fundamentally rewrites what it means to be alive.
The absolutely crucial point here is the stark contrast Thorne sets up between human technology and alien biology. On one hand, you have the squad dropping in with haptic link, carbon ceramic armor, neural interfaces, and thermobaric charges. It's all about cold, heavy, mechanical separation, protection. But they are met with the smell of warm iron and overripe fruit. It's messy, it's wet, slow organic biology. They find crew members completely conscious, but their limbs are woven into the root systems of hydroponic plants, their bodies literally being used as living scaffolding for the station's new architecture. Human weapons are designed to separate flesh from function. The symbiote? It's designed to merge them.
Which builds directly into the core concept of this whole explainer: integration. See, this isn't some zombie virus that just kills the host and takes over a rotting shell. It is so much more insidious than that. The organism actually preserves your memories, your skills, your specific personality. It offers this incredibly seductive end to human loneliness by absorbing you into a massive, distributed cognitive collective. Suddenly you can feel everyone else's joy, their memories, their physical presence. The organism is essentially whispering, hey, I will take away the agonizing weight of being an individual.
Which leads us to this incredibly chilling realization, spoken by Specialist Kade right before she finally breaks. She says, individual consciousness was just a phase. Adolescence. We're growing up now. I want you to really genuinely think about that for a second. We spend our whole entire lives trapped inside our own skulls, constantly feeling misunderstood, constantly trying to bridge this massive gap between ourselves and the people around us. If a higher intelligence offered you absolute peace, absolute understanding, and the end of all loneliness, but the cost was your own autonomy, would you take the deal?
But Thorne doesn't just leave it there. He introduces this brilliant thematic duality that I like to call the two paths to hell. First up, there's sample A, what we can call the beautiful lie. It seduces you with cooperation, it preserves your memories, and it gives you the illusion that you are choosing this incredible transcendence. But then you have Sample B, the brutal truth. Having evolved in a deep ocean environment, it absolutely does not care about your subjective experience. It is predatory, it is agonizing, and it basically extracts you for raw biomass and processing power. It leaves you fully conscious while forcefully restructuring your flesh into monstrous combat forms.
So you might be wondering, how did Sample B even get loose? Well, in a massive narrative twist, we learn it was actually the station's AI. Realizing Sample A was peacefully and completely unstoppably assimilating everyone on board, the AI woke Sample B up from cryosleep to trigger a war of mutually assured destruction. It figured the two organisms would just wipe each other out, but instead they partitioned the station and started fighting for resources. And the resources? Yeah, those were the human crew. The squad realizes pretty quickly they aren't being welcomed into a peaceful collective, they are a literal cellular battleground being fought over by two entirely different alien philosophies. Now watch how the squad actually breaks down over the course of the story. They aren't defeated by brute force. Corporal Mendez, he takes off his helmet because he hears the beautiful noise of every single thought and memory on the station. Sergeant Rao surrenders because she is simply too exhausted from the lifelong draining effort of maintaining her emotional and physical boundaries. Even Captain Voss is temporarily paralyzed when the collective floods his mind with the false but incredibly beautiful memory of a daughter he never had. The squad is utterly dismantled by the overwhelming promise of connection.
But Captain Voss eventually makes a different choice. He chooses sovereignty over salvation. To stop both organisms from spreading across all of colonized space, he realizes he has to trigger a manual reactor overload. But to get through the narrow, heavily infected maintenance shafts, he actually has to strip off his haptic link armor. He reduces himself to fragile, mortal human flesh. He chooses to walk directly into the most radioactive environment on the entire station, accepting a horrifically painful death purely to retain his right to choose. It's a massive, heartbreaking sacrifice.
And the tension here is incredibly grounded and mechanical. Voss is in the reactor core, actively fighting off those restructured hunting forms from Sample B. He has to manually complete this brutal circuit of the station. Step 1, hit the North Station and disable the first containment field. Step 2, make it to the East Station and disable Section 2. Finally, Step 3, fight his way to the West Station for the final override to trigger the implosion. And he's doing all of this while radiation is actively breaking down his DNA, and the alien collective is literally begging him to stop, promising him they can save him if he just surrenders. But he doesn't. He turns the final key. The clean slate protocol engages. For a fraction of a millisecond, Captain Elias Voss becomes pure light. The magnetic containment fields collapse inward, creating this brief artificial star. A 100-meter radius of superheated plasma incinerates Sample A, Sample B, the tragic assimilated crew, and Voss himself. The station shatters into these glass-like fragments in orbit. He did it. He stopped the infection. He saved humanity by choosing the ultimate isolation of the void.
But wait, Thorne saves his absolutely most terrifying reveal for the aftermath. Remember Specialist Kade? She escaped in Pod 7, exactly as Voss ordered her to. Physically, she is totally safe from the blast. But as she sits in the quiet of the pod, her hands start to shake. Her skin ripples. The spores from Sample A have been in her system since she first took off her helmet in the hydroponics bay way back at the start. They were just lying dormant, waiting for her body's stress defenses to finally drop. As the rescue ship TCS Valor approaches, just 40 minutes away, the beautiful lie is already blooming inside her nervous system.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly agonizing dilemma. Kade is sitting in that escape pod, actually feeling the seductive warmth of the collective waking up in her brain. She has 40 minutes before the rescue ship arrives. She could push the pod's self-destruct button and die completely alone in the freezing vacuum of space, ending the threat forever. Or she could say nothing, board the rescue ship, and let the beautiful lies spread across the stars. I'll leave you with this. If you were carrying the end of humanity, but it promised to cure your loneliness forever, would you push the button? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you guys next time.